Welcome to the Beyond the Mat Podcast, an in-depth talk show discussing exclusively WWE topics.
My name's Rick Boogs, and I came to rock with the Beyond the Mat podcast that is beyond the MATT podcast. Ah!
All right, it's Tuesday, June 28th, 2022. Welcome to the Beyond the Mat podcast. Here to do a weekly review of WWE content heading into the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. And go over some of the SmackDown and Raw events, as well as bigger picture things. Encourage you all to follow me on Twitter at BeyondMattWWE. And speaking of Twitter, thank you very much to several followers I have out there who send plenty of messages my way. We have good conversations. I really appreciate you guys very much. Sometimes it's you guys that keep me going. Also available on all podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, you name it. Please leave a 5-star rating if you can and a review if you had the time to do so. Also available on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. That'll get you ad-free content as well as bonus content and a lot of other great things. Just cranking out some new Beyond the Mat paraphernalia, merchandise, whatever you want to call it. I'm getting ready to send out to the patrons, so now's the time to join the club. But tonight's show, we have a special guest. A friend of mine, Grace, she has a podcast of her own. Going to be joining us tonight. How are you doing, Grace?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. Excited to talk about some WWE, some wrestling. I'm ready to get into it.
All right. So you have a podcast called the Evolutionary Wrestling Podcast, right?
Yes, it is called the Evolutionary Wrestling Podcast. We are an exclusively women's wrestling podcast. We only talk about women's wrestling. Right now, we're talking about everything WWE. In the future, I want to add more companies like possibly AEW and Impact, stuff like that. But yeah, we're available on most podcasting platforms. Twitter is Evolutionary WP. Go follow me on there. But thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining me. It's always good to have a new voice on and a new perspective. You know, my listeners haven't heard you, some of them, most of them probably before. So it's, you know, great to have you on here tonight. So we'll get right into some things that have happened in the past week. Now, before we do that, just overall, what did you think of just a bigger picture of everything going into Money in the Bank?
So far, I think they have done a pretty decent job. I mean, there's been some hiccups, as I feel like there always will be, no matter what. But it's been good, but it has been a confusing road to it. As in who's going to be in the match, who, you know, with the matches they've had, like, oh, you're in the match. Actually, no, you're not in the match. And it's been a journey, but hopefully the end result is good.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely been some certainty and, you know, the Drew McIntyre and Sheamus stuff, you're in, you're out. And then Riddle loses his match to Roman Reigns. So, and then he loses to Omos on Raw the following 2 days later. And so it looks like he's completely buried, but then, you know, he turns that around. And then on the ladies' side, it honestly feels like they got the ladies' side a little bit more organized than the men's side of it. And probably Cody Rhodes being injured has a lot to do with that, but I don't know. I mean, as of right now, they only have 6 of 7 of the men's slots filled, so that's a little bit confusing or concerning. I guess they'll figure it out.
I guess so.
Yeah. So anyway, going into Money in the Bank for the SmackDown Women's Championship, we have Natalya, who won the 5-way or 6-way or 4, whatever it was at the time, match to be the number 1 contender to face Ronda Rousey at the pay-per-view. Natalya had an interesting segment on SmackDown where she dressed up as Ronda Rousey, and quite frankly, she delivered a promo probably better than Rousey does. That was the one part that she didn't get right in her impression, was putting so much energy into what she was saying. But then Ronda comes out and starts shooting on Natalya as if, Ronda's the heel almost, and is, basically saying some pretty strongly worded things at Natalya that you wouldn't expect a babyface to say. And afterwards, I found out from somebody that I know from WWE that was saying that Natalya and Ronda were, getting into things on social media. They've always been very good friends. Natalya's been somebody who trained Ronda, helped train Ronda when she came in originally. And, they've been good friends for a long time. And then Natalya evidently crossed the line with Ronda on social media. And then Ronda decided to, think those things. And then WWE Creative just said, hey, go out there and generate some heat here and just speak your mind. And so that's what ended up happening. It did not come off to me as like a scripted segment between a babyface and a heel. Natalya honestly came off as the person I had sympathy for coming out of it, when it should be the babyface Ronda. Ronda got hit pretty hard with that stroller, and but yeah, so they got into that, and it seems like Ronda was sort of firing from the hip there. That was unscripted and like stuff she really thinks, and they're like legitimately beefing. Hopefully they have it all worked out before their match, or that could be a mess. But how did you take this segment?
So obviously going into it, I didn't really have many thoughts about it because any Ronda segment I'm not really out of my seat for. But when Ronda's music hit and then Natty came out, I didn't even notice it was Natty until she walked a little bit down the ramp, and I laughed. I like cackled. I was like, that's good stuff right there. And then she got into the ring and she started, speaking her mind, and I found no problems with it. Sometimes I find it hard to listen to Natalya's promos because I don't think they're bad. I don't ever think they're really bad. She just is so robotic when she speaks that it sounds like she's like reading it off of like her hand.
Yeah.
And I think Natty has always been like that. It's never changed. So I didn't really expect anything more, but the content of the promo was good. And then Ronda came out and she said a couple lines that, made my jaw drop a little bit, which is saying something, because whenever Ronda comes out and does anything on the mic, it is embarrassing and cringy and it's not good. But this is the first time in a really long time that Ronda has gotten on the mic and I've actually reacted in any way. And it's so funny because I think WWE has a bad habit of shooting themselves in the foot, because Ronda would be better as a heel. And the only parts of her promos ever that have been good have been her insulting people. She can do that very well. But whenever she tries to be, righteous and, I'm a baby face and I'm the good guy. Look at me. Feel bad for me. It's not good. But whenever she insults people, she's decent at it. But it's funny because she's the baby face. And I feel like obviously the heel should be the one doing that. For example, like go back to her feud with the Bellas. She had some great lines in her promos against the Bellas. But again, those were insults. So I feel like she just needs to realize what she's good at, which her and WWE have not realized that. And she needs to stick with it because she hasn't done that so far. But then later in the match, when it got to the shoulder, it got really sloppy. In the whole shoulder spot, like, I feel like they didn't even know what they were doing. They were just like slinging and like falling down awkwardly and like slinging the shoulder everywhere. And it was weird. It got sloppy for me.
Yeah, it felt like that they went off the script and, I don't know. I agree with you about Ronda Rousey's overall promo delivery. Not good, not energetic, doesn't entice you. It's hard to get behind somebody like that. On the other hand, Natalya, the content of her promo this week was good. I don't even know the purpose of some of her backstage ones because, she's delivering it and staring at a teleprompter or something that's to the left of the camera every time. I don't know what she's looking at over there, but the one she did last week. Go ahead.
Sorry. You were saying something about when they were beefing on Twitter, who said something too real? Was it Natty to Ronda or Ronda to Natty?
Ronda got offended by something Natty said.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And then Ronda escalated it to, all this stuff about, implants and, whatever else she was saying, which I think to be honest with you, that she doesn't need to. That's a SmackDown show on Fox. And like, I'm not usually like this, but this is a nationally televised show that people bring their kids to. And they got a woman talking about breast implants. You know what I mean? Like it's
a low blow, definitely. That was also, it was a line I wasn't actually a fan of, not for like, she said, I think Ronda said like, at least I'm not, showing everyone like impossible, like beauty standards or whatever. Wasn't a fan of that line. I didn't like that. But Natalya, she fired back to that line specifically on Twitter pretty well. I don't know if anyone saw that, but it was pretty funny. It was like a little montage of like Ronda doing photo shoots and stuff, which kind of contradicted that line specifically. But yeah, that's very interesting. I wonder if there is a little backstage heat now between them.
Yeah, I think that's sort of what they got some heat. Hopefully it'll be resolved just so they're safe with each other in the ring in their Money in the Bank match. But I think that they know that, it doesn't take Stevie Wonder could see that Ronda is not good as a baby face, and they're doing everything they can to have her fight people and be a fighting champion and, give people good matches on TV. And that's wonderful. But I think they know that she's better suited to be a heel. They brought her in here and the only two champions at the time were heels. And so I feel like, and Flair lobbied to have her as a WrestleMania opponent and wanted to put her over. So they kind of had to put her babyface, but they need to turn her heel. Or something needs to happen with that because she's naturally a heel just by being herself, and people see her that way. I understand people get excited when she comes out for whatever reason, but like you said, she's way better at delivering heel style, insulting promos that are basically the same as what she just did to Natalya, except for, tone it back a little bit. And it's actually interesting that both Ronda and Bianca Belair's opponent, like their what they're sort of coming at their opponent with is that their opponent's all about the way they look. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of weird that they're both like that. But
yeah, and I mean, I would be worried that they wouldn't change Ronda into a heel, but I think they've been backed into a corner at this point, because if and when I think it's inevitable, they will do Becky versus Ronda. You can't make Ronda the face in that situation, because you're going to have a 2018 SummerSlam situation on your hands. People are going to be rooting for the heel and then automatically turn them into a face. And I think once that comes, Ronda has to be the heel, because no one's going to want to root for Ronda in that feud.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely coming.
Yeah. It feels like, they had Becky Lynch, hit her rock bottom with the 24/7 stuff, beating down Dana Brooke, and now they're building her back up. She had the match to qualify for Money in the Bank that we'll talk about a little bit later, but just throughout that whole match, that match was all heels, okay, and it just felt like she was the baby face of the match. Like that's how she kind of worked it, and I feel like they're going to sort of shift eventually, because they have to know that her as a heel doesn't work either. She's somebody that people want to cheer for. She does a good job. People
she's a great job.
Yeah, people that criticize like her character or her promos, like I think they're way out of bounds on that, because she's one of the best promos that I've ever seen, man or woman. Like,
yeah, I mean, really when was the last time she gave a bad promo? I don't think anyone could bring that up.
No. I mean, people can say what they want about, some of the things she says sound, like my precious and all that, whatever. But like overall,
church development.
Yeah, she's very good. And to be somebody that knows that everybody wants to cheer you, and her music's still the same. It's a song that people want to get excited for when it comes on. In the arena. I've been in the arena plenty of times for shows, and you have too. And so like when Becky's music come on, people get excited. That's if they wanted her to be a heel that wanted to permanently be, people hate, then they should change her music to music that people hate, and so having said all that, I think that they know that, the heel thing with her isn't really long-term where they want to keep her. And I think with her, she's done a very good job at doing everything she can to not get cheered as much as she should as a heel, even though people want to. And that's just what she has to do with her promos. She's got to be sort of hateable. But regardless, we were talking about Natalya and Ronda. So, to me, this match between the two of them, there are two people that can work well in the ring. I think, Natalya's a veteran, whatever. It's such a throwaway feud, though. And to me, just a bridge to get Ronda to somebody else. I think it's most likely Shayna Baszler is what I've heard that is going next. That's why she didn't qualify for Money in the Bank. But just overall, anything else on Natalya and Ronda and their match for Money in the Bank?
I don't really care who wins or loses. I mean, obviously Ronda's gonna win. There's no way Natalya takes the belt. The feud has been lackluster, nothing special with it. They're doing the exact same story that Ronda had with Charlotte about who has the better move or a finisher or submission or maneuver, whatever you want to call it. It's the same exact thing. And there's absolutely nothing behind it. So no matter how good they do on their promos, it doesn't matter, because the main story of it is the exact same. And I mean, I don't think it'll be a bad match by any means. I think it'll be pretty good. But I don't have a strong opinion on it, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. Sort of, it's one of those things where you kind of just, you're waiting for it to be over to get to the next thing. That's sort of how I feel, because I just have a hard time getting excited for anything. And with all due respect to Natalya, like, I think Natalya is, a great in-ring competitor. She's been that for a very long time. Like I say, she's helped train Ronda and other wrestlers. She's helped a lot of the females there. She's one of the people that's, been there throughout the sort of evolution of the women's division and stuff like that. So I have a lot of respect for Natalya. She knows how to wrestle. She knows how to put on a good match, and she can do that. She can do that with Ronda. Ronda's, honestly, her strong suit isn't her in-ring work. It's more, working submissions and, brawling and stuff like that. So I do think that Natalya can put together a good match with Ronda. It can be good. But just because of the participants in this and the lack of heat in their promos, other than the one last week, which seemed backwards because Natalya felt like the babyface in it, there's just nothing there to see. For me, there's got to be a story, like in a reason for these two people to be fighting each other, like that sort of pulls some kind of emotion out of me. And if there's not a story there, then why are these two people fighting? And so that's sort of where, to me, right, for this one, other than Natalya winning this number one contenders match, they didn't do enough to build a story that's worth investing in, that makes me feel like this fight really matters.
Yeah, Ronda, I think her only strong suit is, I'm not saying she's bad in the ring. She's not bad in the ring, but I feel like the strong suit she has is her name and her presence. I think that's honestly the only upper hand she has on anyone. But yeah, Natalya is great. I love Natalya. I respect the crap out of her. She has been with WWE for forever. And that's why I was confused why this thing happened. I was shocked when Natalya was the one announced who was going to fight Ronda, because she is at the end of her career, not in ring career. She's at the end of her career in title matches, at least to me. Like, I just can't. You have to put someone believable in, at least, who people think they have a chance at winning that belt. Everyone has kind of come to the conclusion that Natalya is kind of at the end of her career with that subject, with belts, winning belts. So it's just not a believable feud at all.
Yeah, that's the other problem. She's not a believable person that's going to win. And part of this is they move Money in the Bank from a stadium to an arena. They weren't selling enough tickets. Now, they could have sold more tickets if they would have advertised better matches maybe in the beginning, but they got to the point where they wanted to, downsize the whole freaking pay-per-view. And so that means that Ronda Rousey's not going to face somebody enticing. She's just going to face sort of a placeholder. And, same goes for Bianca Belair. She was supposed to face...
Mate, this isn't high school. And I'm not going to let your pettiness hurt Nikki's feelings. Mate, this isn't...
Rhea Ripley.
I was so confused what was happening.
That's Rhea Ripley for you. Doesn't want her pettiness to hurt Nikki Ash's feelings. But she's supposed to face Rhea Ripley. That's a big match there. A lot of people want to see that match between Belair and Ripley. Ripley evidently got hurt with some dental surgery she needed, and as well as a concussion. I think the dental stuff was more of the long-term issue that prevented her from this match. If that actually is, if she legitimately was not medically cleared. I don't even know if that's completely true. Like, I know she definitely got hurt, but by the time Money in the Bank comes around, that's like a month since that match happened. But regardless, so like even on the Raw side, we have Carmella and Bianca. So we'll just jump right over it. We'll just go out of order and jump right over to Carmella and Bianca. We talked about Rousey as a champion. She's not rowdy at all. She's more like, if she closed every SmackDown with a promo, that would be perfect, because I could just turn it off and I'd be half asleep already. But they want to end the show with a bang usually. So but yeah, the Ronda Natalya match, like you said, it's like a nothing, hard to get invested in, whatever. Sure, it'll be a good match, but the story is just not there. We have Carmella winning a 5-way match last week. It was kind of obvious that she was going to win the match because it had to be a heel to win. The only other heel in the match was Becky, and Becky was facing Asuka later in the night to qualify for Money in the Bank. Alexa Bliss and Liv were in the match. They're already in Money in the Bank, so it wouldn't make any sense for anybody else to win it except for Carmella, who's not in Money in the Bank this year. And so I felt like that was pretty predictable. And, Carmella had not been on Raw for basically since whenever Sonya Deville slapped her and Zelina Vega in the face. Now, Zelina Vega's been out with an injury. That would actually be, if Zelina Vega was around, I wouldn't mind seeing her against Bianca Belair here, because I think Zelina Vega is pretty good in the ring and she's very good on the mic. So, like, it would be a good view. Now, Carmella's not bad on the mic in her own right. I don't feel like she's that great in the ring. I feel like she's just one of those people that just isn't on the same physical level as somebody like Bianca or Becky or Charlotte Flair or anybody like that. She just doesn't have, she's not terrible. She's just not someone that I would see at the top of the card all of a sudden, especially when just a couple weeks ago, she had some kind of beef with Dana Brooke and was asking Adam Pearce to make sure she got a match with Dana Brooke coming up soon. That never happened. And then suddenly she's the number one contender, which is fine. I don't have an issue with Carmella. I more honestly have a issue, or maybe not an issue, but I'm just a little bit disappointed maybe in Bianca Belair's championship reign here. It has not been exciting at all for me. I don't feel, she seems less confident than normal, and I feel like when she's chasing the title, she's more interesting than when she's holding it. But what do you feel about Bianca as a champion? And you can go on to talk about Carmella and Bianca's match as well, and whatever else you feel about that.
Yeah, I like Bianca. I have absolutely no problems with her. She is a great in-ring performer. She does well on the mic. When she won the belt, or before she won the belt, like right before WrestleMania, I had said or thought that, her winning the belt will be a good moment. But as soon as that moment is over, I feel like going to get very mundane and kind of boring pretty quickly. And I think that is not by anything that she's doing. I think it's just her character. I mean, her character's fine and all. She's just, a babyface. She does babyface things. Well, actually, as of recently, she kind of seems like a heel, but she's just a regular babyface, and it just is the same thing over and over again. And I think that you can change that by just changing her heel, and then it would become interesting. But I think it's just the same. It's like a repeat over and over again. And I was afraid of that happening, and it didn't happen like right when she won the belt. It took a few weeks, but now we're at the point where you kind of want to see a change up. And it's sad because she hasn't had the belt for that long, but I don't know about everyone else, but I want to see the belt on someone else now. And maybe my opinion would change like if she turned heel, but I don't know because I feel like they're not going to do that.
Yeah, I feel like her as the champion, she, deserved it. They had a great story between her and Becky to build it all the way to WrestleMania. She wins it. Great moment for her in the ring. Arguably one of the best in the world. I have no qualms with that. And the promo stuff, when you say like maybe she'd be better as a heel, I totally agree with that. I think that, if you're somebody that's going to call yourself the EST of anything, like imagine being at work and somebody's walking up to you saying, I'm the EST, I'm the biggest, strongest, fastest at this, at that, the other thing. Wouldn't that get on your nerves after a while? And I just feel like,
just a bit.
Yeah, calling yourself that is sort of an arrogant thing to do. And I get that that's her gimmick and everything, but she had that gimmick in NXT and she was a heel. And she would be a very good heel, just acting like she's better than everybody because she's more athletic and more like she is all those things that she says she is. So, but when she's a babyface, she has all these heels like Ripley and like other people cutting promos on her, and she doesn't seem like the type of her promo. Like when she fires back in a promo, it's just not. There's something missing. And then for her having the title, I just feel like if they would have her defending it on television, like they did with Rousey on SmackDown, at least like once every 2 or 3 weeks, that would go a long way to getting her over as having a good championship reign as a babyface. Now, on a 3-hour show, I don't understand why there's not enough time for that. I get that they needed to dedicate a lot of time to Cody Rhodes, and then that ended up being somewhat of a waste because he got injured, although they needed to push him anyway. They spend all this time with Judgment Day and Money in the Bank qualifying stuff, and all that's wonderful. And Elias and his concert. But why is the Raw Women's Championship on the back burner so much? That's what I don't understand.
I feel like they're just now becoming self-aware of what they've been doing with the women's division. And the reason I say that is because they've even been saying it on like backstage moments, like this past SmackDown with Sonya, like saying to Adam Pearce, I forgot the line, but she said something about you've been neglecting the women's division or something. Yeah. So they've obviously been checking Twitter, but yeah, I think it's getting better now. Honestly, I think they had no idea, no vision of where they wanted to go, like with Bianca, and with Carmella, when she was announced in that, was it a 5-person match? Wasn't it?
Yeah, 5-way.
Yeah, the 5-way match. I was happy. I was like, okay, cool. Because I love when they bring out, like when it makes sense, at least when they bring out a woman who hasn't been on TV in a bit and has already proven herself that she can be. And so I was really happy when she came out, and I had no problem with her winning. The last promo she had with Bianca this past Raw, it was good. It was pretty short, but it was good. I also liked how they did the Titantron for Carmella, and I really wish they would do that for like everyone instead of just having the stupid logo or whatever of someone's name. Like they need to do more of that because that was awesome. But yeah, I think Carmella in the ring isn't bad, but I feel like she could be better because I think some of her in-ring performance is legitimately covered up by her squealing. And I know that's her character and she does the character very well, but sometimes it's a little too much in the ring, at least. And you're like, holy crap, the squealing. It's not even screaming, it's squealing. And I feel like some of her moveset is covered up by the fact that she just squeals in the ring. But I've seen some people saying they don't want Carmella in the match, but I don't have a problem with it. I think it's good. I think that the personalities, it's funny because I think Bianca and Carmella's personalities are the same, but different. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but like they basically say the same thing. And it goes back to us talking about Bianca basically saying heel stuff and kind of acting like heel, but presenting yourself as a babyface. But there's a line. She's kind of holding herself back from being like a full heel. And then Carmella's already there, but they kind of have the same personality, you know?
Yeah, they're both very about themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
in Carmella, it's not, I don't have a problem with her being in the match, by the way. I wanted to see Rhea Ripley against Belair because I know that's, that's a match that they've been saving for a long time. Like, they've been waiting that was a good matchup. Not happening though. And so like that was disappointing, just not having Ripley there. Carmella is fine to be in the match based on her skills and everything. It's the way they've positioned her up to that point that, sometimes somebody just needs to step up and do something, and that's fine. But at the same time, in that match, even though Alexa Bliss was in the Money in the Bank ladder match, and even though I said it was obvious Carmella was going to win, Alexa Bliss had won like 5 straight matches. They were doing things, based off of the merits of what somebody deserves based on their performance and stuff like that in the world of like their matches and in the WWE universe. Then I would think Alexa Bliss, sort of was like next in line, but whatever.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on the Rhea Ripley versus Bianca. I think everyone wants to see that match. I think that match though has the potential to be so good that it shouldn't be on Money in the Bank. So in some ways it's kind of a saving grace that Carmella kind of stepped up for the Money in the Bank match, because in my opinion, I feel like Ripley versus Belair should be on a bigger pay-per-view, because I think that would be a fantastic match, and they need time to build it up a lot more than, because SummerSlam is at the end of July, right? So there's only like a few weeks in between. And I feel like if Ripley wasn't injured and was still in the match, they would panic because they don't have enough time to even like put anything into that feud. And then it would be automatically ruined by creative itself. So in some ways, Carmella stepping into this Money in the Bank match might have been the saving grace for the Ripley and Belair feud, because everyone wants to see that, me included.
Yeah, and hopefully it's, obviously we probably would both agree Belair is going to go over in this one and retain against Carmella.
Yeah.
And then she's going to move on to SummerSlam. Maybe that's where you have the Rhea Ripley match. But then again, that's only about 4 weeks away from Money in the Bank.
Mm-hmm.
Then they could move that match to the London pay-per-view or whatever it is, the UK pay-per-view. But what I'm afraid of is that match won't even get to happen now, and Rhea Ripley won't even get that opportunity, because what if Becky Lynch wins the Money in the Bank and cashes in on Bianca and wins? Then we never get our Rhea Ripley Bianca Belair title match. Maybe she's cashing in on that match itself. I don't know. I'm just throwing out hypotheticals and just saying that could have been like almost I hate to use the phrase dream match, but like, for what it is, it's one of the better female matchups that we just haven't seen, because they were both baby faces for so long, and they're both very talented and very young, and definitely the future of the women's division there. And them not being able to have that match for whatever reason, ends up coming up would really be a shame for both of them.
Yeah, I mean, Becky could definitely cash in that night of if she wins. But for some reason, I just don't see her taking the belt off of Bianca. Like, I feel like the belt is going to be on someone else when Becky takes it. Like, if she wins the Money in the Bank contract, I think she might be more methodical with it and like wait. But I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah. But, yeah, it's pretty much all I had to say about Belair and Carmella. You have anything else about them before we move on?
Nope, I think about covers it.
All right, so we'll stick to more lady stuff. We had Sonya Deville, like you said, backstage, berating Adam Pearce. He seemed to get a little bit upset about that, so he put her in a handicap match against Lacey Evans and Raquel Rodriguez. Now, usually, babyface is the one, and the heels are the two in a handicap match. So it was a strange dynamic having Sonya out there, but obviously it was, Pierce's way of punishing her. And I just felt like in this match that Sonya did not look as comfortable. I mean, like, she hit some pretty nice looking knees to the face on Raquel, but like she just didn't look comfortable in the ring. But I don't know if maybe that was just me seeing things. I don't know. But Evans ends up wiping her out with the women's right. And Evans and Raquel are both in the Money in the Bank match. So what do you think about Sonya's in-ring future? Do you think that how do you think they're using her? How do you feel about the way they're using her? Do you think she's going to move up the card a little bit more, or be sort of a heel that they use to put over baby faces like they did in this instance? Or do you think that, and also, how do you think Evans and Raquel are being presented right now?
Yeah, Sonya, I think that, like you said, I think I think she's going to be a heel that's going to put up baby faces like she did with Alexa Bliss. And I was surprised to see her on this past SmackDown, because the last time we saw her was her match with Alexa Bliss, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't see them doing anything special with her. I think that something's going to have to happen in maybe one of those cases with a baby face to put a spark into, because I think the fans are going to drive that more than WWE is. So if the fans get behind Sonya and want to see her get somewhere, I think then she has a chance. But I don't see anyone really on the roster that she would do well with. And I mean, I'm sure there is. I'm not saying there isn't. I just don't, no one catches my eye. What I wanted with Sonya was a hopeful Paige return, and then her having a thing with Paige. But now that Paige is going to be leaving the WWE, that's not possible. But as for Lacey Evans and Raquel, I really like, and I think she has a lot of potential. I don't like how they've been presenting her. I think it's kind of along the lines of the Bianca thing. Like, it's kind of just the same thing over and over again. But I mean, it is too early. A little too early to say that, because she just came up to the main roster. So they haven't really given her anything of substance, but I do think she has a lot of potential, and it's definitely someone they want to push into the title picture at some point.
Yeah.
And then for Lacey, I don't even know. Like, I'm so confused. They have dragged us every which way with her that I'm scared to have an opinion, because I feel like the next day it's going to get changed. So, like, she was on SmackDown, then she was on Raw. Now she's back on SmackDown, and we had to wait like 20 years for her to even like be in the building. And then there was rumors that they're going to turn her heel, but she's not acting anything like a heel. I think she would be fantastic as a heel because the sassy Southern Belle I disliked so much, but in a great way. She was doing her job. She did it fantastic. You just like wanted to see her get beat up. And I think they should have stuck with that. And I think they should go back to that. And I think they would have something fantastic if they turned her heel because of what she has been saying. In some way they could switch that and like turn it as to like her like attacking the audience. It would be, I think, really, really good. And I think they should do that. But what do you think?
That's exactly what I think they should do too. And that's what I thought they were going to do. I thought that she was going to say all these heartfelt promos about all these trials and tribulations she's been through, you know, in all those vignettes we saw. And then everyone's going to think she's babyface. And then she's basically going to be like, well, I went through all this stuff. You people, most of you haven't had it as hard as me. None of these women have had it as hard as I have. Their father didn't overdose the day that they had their, whatever, all the stuff she said. And, you know what I mean? And I thought that she was going to use that as like, you know, to be on a pedestal and, you know, just basically, you know, because she would end every single one with, you know, I may not be better than them, but they are damn sure not better than me. And I didn't understand why they need to say that all the time. But I completely agree with you. She could turn at any time. And it was rumored that she was supposed to be heel for a while. Then it was babyface, and it was heel. Then she's on Raw. Then she's on SmackDown. Then she's back on Raw. Then she finally debuts on SmackDown. You know what I mean? But you were about to say something. Go ahead.
And I mean, it's still early enough. They could still turn her heel. I think there's a stopping point with it. Like, I think right now it has the potential to be as good as it could be because of the timing. I think if they waited like another, you know, few months, it would die down and it wouldn't be as good, but it's still early enough where she could play on it a little more and then just flip completely and it would still be great.
Yeah. I wonder if they're like, okay, we got Independence Day coming up here. Got, you know, the Memorial Day, these like sort of holidays that are patriotic and stuff like that. So I wonder if they wanted to keep her babyface in this persona just like through a little bit of the summer and then turn her the other way. Because I honestly would be way more interested in her if she was a heel and, you know, acting like she's been through all this stuff and everybody else is, you know, less than her because they haven't dealt with the same problems. You know what I'm saying? That's basically what I felt like it would do. But I do agree with you that like the steam behind all that's going to run out if they keep her as a baby face. And like, she was on commentary the other night and I didn't understand the purpose of her being there at all. She said nothing interesting. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm just saying that she's on commentary, has a chance to, you know, get herself over a little bit. And she barely said anything. And she was like applauding the other people in the match. And now she did a better job than Asuka on commentary. But,
yeah, I mean, now that you say that, I forgot she was even on commentary. She was so quiet and was like being talked over. So for what she said, I have no idea because I forgot she was even on commentary.
Yeah. So the other thing about Raquel is she has a hell of a smile. She seems like she's constantly smiling the whole time, but she definitely is really good. And her eventually, if they're going to keep a babyface champion there, she's going to eventually need to turn heel so she can win the championship from Ronda. If Ronda's going to remain the champion for any extended period of time, because that's honestly believable. I was there. I was at SmackDown the night when she fought Raquel. Ronda fought Raquel in like the open challenge for championship contenders match, whatever the hell they called it. I don't know if it was a title match or a non-title match, but and Raquel, took her to the limit, and then eventually Ronda reversed her finisher and won the match. However, she won the match, but Raquel looked really good in that match, and she looks really good every time she's in any match. So, I don't see her winning Money in the Bank, but I definitely think that she would be a good championship contender.
Yeah, I think the potential I was talking about, like she has a lot of potential. I think that specific potential is specifically going to be used when WWE gets their crap together and moves up some more women from NXT, because there's a lot of talent at NXT, like really good talent. And she has history with Rhea Ripley and some of the other girls on NXT right now. And I think the potential that she has will be used very well when they bring up a couple of the girls from NXT, and then she has a feud with them. Because she already has chemistry with them, I think it'll be very good. And then it could start a new wave of like a new generation coming into the women's division, kind of like when the 4 Horsewomen debuted from NXT to the main roster. That was a moment that has gone down in history. It's a fantastic segment. And I think they can use that to their advantage and kind of use the same thing with Raquel and bringing more women up from NXT.
Yeah, I agree. I think Raquel definitely part of the future of the women's division, and is definitely a good representation of what the future of the women's division can be. And they have plenty of women down there, even the tag team, like Toxic Attraction, stuff like that. Obviously, I don't want to get into all the women's tag stuff right now because there's clearly no division happening right now. But they need to get like more of these women up here. They got a tag division down in NXT. Why can't they have that on TV with basically the same women they have down there on TV with Raw and SmackDown? Like, I don't understand that.
Well, they also announced a tag team tournament like a month or more ago, and haven't said anything about it at all. They just wanted to like televise it all over the world and then not do anything with it like at all.
Yeah, I think that they had an intention, and then they looked around. They were like, wait a minute, who's going to be in this? And we got to focus on money.
We shot ourselves in the foot again.
Yeah, and then, they had to use so much time to have all these Money in the Bank qualifying matches that, like, when would they have it? So, I don't know, maybe after Money in the Bank, they decide to go back to that. But other than, like, Doudrop and Nikki ASH, is there any other tag team? And then, like, you could say Liv Morgan and Alexa Bliss, but then they just wrestled each other the other night for some reason. So I don't understand where they're even getting the tag teams to have a tag team tournament. But, I don't have a problem with put together tag teams either. That's what Sasha and Naomi were when they were when they started. I thought that Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley were pretty cool when they were a tag team thrown together for a month. But they need enough people to do it all. And I guess you could say Baszler and Natalya team up a lot, but like, it's not like they're an actual tag team. But I don't know. I see where you're going with it, but go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say throw Ronda in a tag team and just leave her there.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that they were doing in the beginning, like when they had her working with I guess her and Naomi in Elimination Chamber against Sonya and Flair. they were putting her in those in that match, and like at house shows they'd have her in tag matches like that because they weren't ready. She wasn't like in ring ready, and they needed to protect her. And it's like, if you had to protect her from all, like, how is she somebody that deserves to be coming in as a part-timer to win the Royal Rumble and all this stuff if you had to protect her in tag matches? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But whatever. I guess they believe she's a draw. But we're going to take a quick break here, and we'll be right back after this, all right?
The Beyond the Mat Podcast. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Beyond the Mat Podcast.
All right, we're back from the break. Remember, if you want to get rid of those ads, join us on Patreon as little as $1 a month. Beyond the Mat Podcast. Follow us on Twitter at Beyond Mat WWE. And give us a 5-star rating or review if you could be so kind. Also, with me today is Grace from the Evolutionary Wrestling Podcast, as you know. So, moving on here, just got done talking about several different women's feuds. We'll move to a quick couple of men's feuds here. We had Gunther and Ricochet fight for the second time, basically cementing Gunther as the Intercontinental Champion. Ricochet is always fun in the ring. The two of them having a high flyer like Ricochet and a monster like Gunther in the ring. Those kinds of matchups of clashing styles always look good. Ricochet sells so well. He was selling so great for Gunther, flying across the ring after his shotgun drop kick that he used to end both matches. This match here felt like much more of a quick disposal of Ricochet by Gunther. But my question is, how do you receive Gunther, and do you see Ricochet losing here twice? He had a nice spot in the Battle Royal the other night, but do you see him getting lost here, or do you think that overall, how do you feel about Ricochet?
I'm a big fan of Ricochet. Every time he comes out to the ring, I'm always excited to see his matches just because his moveset is insane and his style is crazy. And he always, without fail, puts on a fantastic match. And I think they really struck gold with Gunther and Ricochet together, because Ricochet selling Gunther, oh my God. Here we go. Gunther's chops and moves is just, they need to give this man a raise, because anyone who he goes against, he makes them look like $1 million. Yeah. And they couldn't have picked anyone better to, build a new star than Ricochet, because he made him look like the world's strongest man, like crazy. And I think they keep the belt on Gunther for a good bit. I don't think they take it off of him. They have a match this Friday, right?
Do they? Another one?
No. Wait, no. I guess their last match was this Friday. Okay, sorry. There's been a couple of them. It's getting confusing, but that. I think Gunther has the belt, and I don't really have any for what's next with Gunther. I don't know who he goes against. I think that he has a lot of potential, though. Whoever he goes against, I think it'll be just as good as Ricochet. Maybe not like in ring, but I think he's a great bring up from NXT. He came from NXT UK, right?
Yeah, NXT UK. And I seen him at a house show against Mansoor, and I'm thinking, and this was back when they were doing the squash matches every week with him, and I'm thinking we're going to get a 30-second match. And they went for like 20 minutes. And this is against Mansoor. This guy doesn't even make TV ever. And in this match with Gunther, and Gunther looked great. Mansoor actually looked good. Speaking of Mansoor, I got something about Mansoor I want to say a little bit. Actually, I'll just say it right now. I'm pretty sure he's one of Max Dupree's clients because he was doing with Max Dupree on Main Event. So it only makes sense for him to keep the same clients. Why would they change it? You know? But at that time, Gunther working with Mansoor, who's basically at, mid to low mid card guy, but he can move. As long as they put people that can move in there with him and that can sell, he looks great. And he's a legitimate guy that can eventually be a world champion, I think. And everything you said about Ricochet, I totally agree. He's, he sells his ass off in there, works really hard. One of the house shows I went to, they had a bunch of people out for COVID. They had to make like a singles match turn into a tag team match, turn into a 6-man tag team match, turn into all kinds of interference. Ricochet was out there for almost an hour because he was in the first match that just kept getting people interfering, and then they turn it into this match. And he was doing all kinds of stuff for like 45 minutes straight. And like to do that for the fans that he knows went to this show and probably were expecting Roman Reigns and all this stuff, because this was like right before day one. And they were short people, and he went out there, and I think him and McIntyre, like Sheamus was like the best heel they had. So it was like him and McIntyre against like Sheamus, some other people. And he was just like totally carrying the whole thing. I think the other heels were the Lotharios. So it was like a really weird matchup. And I had gained a lot of respect for the Los Lotharios that night too, because they were, what you see in a house show sometimes, you don't get to see everything on TV that really everybody could do. They get limited time, and they got to share time with the video packages we had to see a million times. But yeah, I agree. Gunther's a good call up from NXT. They really like him a lot. They're obviously pushing him here. Hopefully Ricochet, continues to be able to have at least, a position where he's in meaningful matches and just doesn't disappear here. Because his run as the IC champion, he did defend it several times, which is nice. But I honestly would have liked to see him defeat Gunther maybe the first time, and then Gunther come back and, beat him the second time. Just because we don't get to see Ricochet really defeat anybody who's, big and powerful or impressive. He won against Sami Zayn to win the title, but then he just beat people like Shanky and Jinder Mahal and stuff like that. So, but
yeah, I wish they did more with Ricochet, like especially with his character. I wish they put a lot more into his character, because you see all of his in-ring skill, but I've heard him on the mic a couple of times, and I mean, it hasn't been terrible or anything, but he doesn't have really any substance behind his character. And I think they should put more effort into that, because I think he could do very well, like building a character of his own instead of just high flying, because everyone knows him as like high flying Ricochet, does crazy moves. But to like really get the whole package, they need to put a lot more effort into his character development. And I will say about Gunther, for a big guy, he's very impressive in the ring. Like, he's not boring to watch. He's not an Omos or like an Otis. Like, he's just as big, well, in a different way, just as big, but is actually interesting to watch in the ring. So I will say that about Gunther also.
Yeah, he definitely has like some agility of a smaller guy. And like, he does some moves that you wouldn't expect a big guy to do, like the shotgun drop kick and things like that. But then he lays in his stuff like a big monster. But move on to Drew McIntyre and Sheamus real quick. They had a match a couple weeks ago, ended in no contest. Then they had Adam Pearce say they're both in the match. Then they had Adam Pearce reverse that decision, say they had to defeat the Usos. They ended up being able to put their differences aside and defeat the Usos on SmackDown to qualify for Money in the Bank. You know, just another small storyline to throw into that match. But I actually liked the way that they did this. You know, it made it instead of just having a qualifying match and it be over, they had two guys that are kind of evenly matched in a lot of ways and that have worked together a million times and that don't like each other and know each other so well they're stealing each other's moves in their match, and they had it come out equal. And then they, you know, had the Adam Pearce segment where Drew McIntyre got pissed off and, you know, beat the hell out of Sheamus. And they had this match together on SmackDown, which was kind of a strange situation for them to be tagging against the Usos. You know, for the Usos for any reason, why not somebody else? But like, so that was my only like question about it. Why do they have to face the Usos now to qualify for Money in the Bank after they already did? And I understand all the stuff with Paul Heyman, but at the end of the day, I just felt like, you know, they were two guys who were going to be in the match. It was obvious, but I thought it was creative the way they did all this stuff. But do you have anything to say about Drew and Sheamus, or do you want to move on to the next topic?
I'll say real quick, I enjoyed watching Drew and Sheamus teaming together. The second they said, I agree, it didn't make really a whole lot of sense that it was with the Usos, but the second they announced that it was going to be the Usos versus Drew and Sheamus, I was like, this is going to be a fantastic match, and it was good. But yeah, I the only thing I didn't like about it was the way Adam like announced it at first. I guess it was no, the week before, not this past Friday, but the week before, when he was announcing that Sheamus was the winner, and then like Drew attacked Sheamus. The way he worded it was so weird. He was like, "Oh, Drew, I meant to also say that you're also going to be in it." I feel like it was super anticlimactic, but yeah, I think it was interesting to say the least the way they did it, and I don't really have any problems with it. But there was one thing. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. When we were watching, me and my boyfriend were watching SmackDown when they were announcing when Paul Heyman came out, and my boyfriend scared me because he brought up a point that could have happened because the way they were like wording it and like building up to it. I thought they were going to say that they couldn't cash in on SummerSlam. Like if they were in the match and they won the contract, they weren't able to cash it in that night or whatever, or on Roman Reigns, or not at SummerSlam, sorry, Money in the Bank. And I thought that was going to happen for a hot second, but it didn't, thank the Lord, because I wouldn't want that to happen. But yeah, overall good match. They teamed well together, and yeah, not much to say about that.
Yeah, well, thank God they didn't stipulate that, because that's the whole reason why they're having this Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns last man standing match, so that they can beat the living daylights out of each other. Roman Reigns is probably going to end up winning, but then being so beat up that someone's going to cash in on him. And Michael Cole's been very, very careful to make sure he reminds us every time he mentions Money in the Bank that the winner gets a shot at one of the men's or women's titles respectively. One. He always says one. He makes sure everybody knows it's one. So that means to me that whoever's winning this is going to cash in on Roman Reigns and take most likely the WWE title back to Monday Night Raw, or belongs, quite frankly, instead of being on an absentee champion. And don't get me wrong, I was every bit supportive and advocate that he should be, if anybody was going to win that WrestleMania match title for title, it should have been him, not Brock Lesnar. but I really felt, and I don't want to get into all this because it was a week ago, but I really felt like it made Riddle look like crap, even though he looked great in that match, to then lose clean in the middle of the ring, roll over to the side, and then Brock Lesnar's music hits, comes out, wipes out everybody in 30 seconds after Riddle just fought a 25-minute match and lost clean in the middle of the ring. It just sort of defined him down, I felt like. But they got back into it with the Battle Royal, where he ended up winning with an RKO to Miz on the apron. What did you think about the Battle Royal on Raw? I felt like it was pretty good, but I don't want to influence your response.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I would agree with you on that. I don't think there's anything like special or like the real eye catcher of SmackDown, but it wasn't bad. There was a lot of faces that I even forgot were on the roster that I saw. Shelton Benjamin being one of them. I was like, whoa, he still works there. But yeah, there were a couple moments. I forgot who were some of the big guys in the Battle Royal, because there was one big guy.
T-Bar?
No, not T-Bar. It was Otis in the Battle Royal?
I don't think Otis was. Veer was in there.
Or not Otis. He's on Raw. Veer Mahan. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Veer Mahan. Yeah, when he got put over the ropes, I was like, oh my God, thank the Lord. I didn't even want him coming close to being in the Money in the Bank ladder match. I was like, I don't dislike him by any means, but I'm not as a big fan as everyone else is of him. When he got put over, I actually reacted.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Veer at all. I think that his character is very one note, and they've done a couple things, I guess, to make it a little bit more palatable recently, but just having a guy come out here dressed as a very stereotypical Native American or whatever he's supposed to be, and acting like a savage and grunting and just killing people in 2 seconds every week, like, I just feel is a little bit, they need more depth there. Now, for him, having him in the Money in the Bank match with Omos, that would be a complete disaster. So thank God he didn't win that Battle Royal. But I was surprised that he got eliminated that early. I if you were to give me a list of 20 people in a Battle Royal and he was on it, I would think he would be one of the final 5 or something, just because of the way that he's been running through people. But
yeah, I mean, it was like overall, like with the whole match, like there were a couple reactions like I had with Veer, like getting people thrown out and like me being happy that they got thrown out because I didn't want them anywhere near the match. But one thing I will say about it, I liked how they presented T-Bar in the match. And I know that's, might sound weird, but I think they could do a lot more with him. They don't do anything with him at all. But just, the way he looks, how tall he is, how big he is, and they kind of like pushed him a little bit in that match. I enjoyed that. And I think they need to do a little more with him.
Yeah, he military pressed Reggie and got rid of him. That was impressive. And then he threw Ricochet out of there. There's Ricochet selling for somebody again there. Ricochet happened to balance himself on the ladder, jump back in, get caught by a choke slam, but fight out of it. And then Hurricane Rana T-Bar out of the ring. But I agree. T-Bar, I like the fact that they feature him a little, because I actually like him. I don't necessarily like the T-Bar character, but I like the guy and his work. And he was one of the people that was rumored to join Judgment Day before they sort of changed the direction of it and got Edge out of there. So I'm not sure if he's still going to do that, but that would help his, if he joined that group, that'd be good for him because, they're going to be featuring that group on TV. Obviously they had him messing with the Mysterios on Raw. So it looks like they're going to be feuding with the Mysterios coming up. They did have a match on Main Event a couple weeks ago. But yeah, the Battle Royal was nice to see Riddle get his win. Now, we're going to get to really what you were sort of afraid of, them talking about the cash in for the last man standing match. To me, it's all been laid out by, I think, McIntyre might have said this first about he's going to win Money in the Bank and then cash in as soon as, Roman Reigns is beat up at the SummerSlam match. Rollins says he's going to do the same thing. Now, I wonder if all these guys are saying they're going to do it, but it ends up being Riddle being the one doing it. But obviously, there's some, a little bit of a heat between Riddle and Rollins. It's kind of hard for them to have a real program right now because they're working towards Money in the Bank. But just Rollins coming out and curb stomping him last week and then things like that. So, to me, those are your two favorites to win the Money in the Bank match. Of the two of them, how do you feel about either one of them winning the Money in the Bank? And just overall, how do you feel about them moving forward?
So when Riddle won the spot in the ladder match, I had no problem with it because I don't have any problem with Riddle. The only thing that is slightly odd is they had the stipulation in the match with his last match with Roman saying that, as long as Roman is champion, you can't have a title match with him. So unless they're going to explain it, because I'm usually not like nitpicky over them like going into heavy detail about how things are explained or anything, but this is something that was so clearly said, and I feel like a toddler could understand it, that they kind of have to explain it at this point, because like is the contract and the briefcase like the loophole? Is that like an exception, or like how is that going to work? Because they clearly stated that he couldn't challenge him for the title. But I'm a big Rollins fan, so I want him to win the briefcase, and I think he's going to win the briefcase if I had to like predict. But things have been kind of wishy-washy with like the whole, I feel like ladder match as a whole. Like there's been so many like storylines kind of like shoved together. Like you have Drew and then you have Riddle and you have Rollins, and they're all going after the same thing, but then you have Rollins and Riddle kind of doing their own thing. So I think Rollins is going to win it. But I feel like the way they presented it has been, it's going to come down to Rollins and Riddle, like going for the briefcase at like the same time.
Oh yeah. I can see them both on the top of the ladder beating each other, and then Rollins throwing Riddle off and grabbing it. That's how I could see that match ending. But yeah, I agree with. Now, the one thing I'll say about the stipulation of Riddle not being able to challenge Roman Reigns, Heyman worded it that he cannot challenge for the undisputed Universal Championship ever again. Didn't say he can't just challenge for one title. He said he couldn't challenge for the undisputed combined title.
Okay.
So that's, I guess, some semantics on how you can get around it. And again, you got Michael Cole, and I think Jimmy Smith was doing it too, but they're making a point to make sure that they say one title, because obviously we all already know that, but having Roman Reigns with both titles, obviously somebody's going to cash in on him, and they want people to know that somebody's taking one title off of him, I think.
But couldn't you see them doing like a story, starting something? Okay, let's say Riddle won the briefcase, and then them starting a whole entire thing off of, no, actually, you can't cash that in because I said that you couldn't challenge me. And then Riddle saying like, no, actually, you said ... But like, I could see them making that like a whole thing.
Yeah, I could.
And then just like, holding the briefcase hostage.
I could see that happening too. And then Riddle hanging on to the briefcase until somebody else beats Roman Reigns. I could see anybody winning the briefcase really, and then deciding to use the briefcase as a de facto championship title and have people wrestling over that instead of the title belts because Roman Reigns has both of them. You know, at this point, the fact that he is the unified champion and only has 5 more confirmed dates for the rest of 2022 that he's going to be appearing is somewhat concerning. Like, they need to get one of those titles back on television consistently so that the men have something to fight for. I mean, it's just, I like the way they're trying to elevate the US title a little bit, but the top of the card has nothing to, there's no reason for them to even be in feuds with each other because there's no championship held by a guy who doesn't want to show up. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. He's put his time in, but it's like for the longest time, I hated Brock Lesnar for being an absentee champion. And I wanted him to lose so bad. And now it's taking Brock Lesnar fighting Roman Reigns in a last man standing match to get to, ironically, get one of the titles off of another absentee champion. But yeah, I can see Riddle or Rollins winning the match. You know, you got Sami Zayn in there as the honorary Uce, you know, as he calls himself. So he's going to try to do everything he can to ruin it for everybody else. Omos is in the match. Watch out. You know, a bunch of people might end up getting hurt. I mean, Jesus, he can't even wrestle a regular match without almost hurting somebody. And they got a bunch of ladders all over the place. Now, he might be tall enough to reach that ladder without even, or reach that briefcase without even getting on the ladder. Montez Ford frog splashes and can almost grab the briefcase. I think that would be the coolest thing ever. If Montez Ford was in the Money in the Bank. You
think they're going to do a spot with that?
I don't know. They should. He should do it in their tag match with the Usos, the Street Profits. He should do a frog splash and hit the briefcase. That would be cool.
Yeah, I think that would be great.
And they honestly could have done it all these last 4 weeks that they had the briefcases hanging there. But yeah, he could win the match that way if he was in it. You know? And even if they had to, they can lower the briefcase down a little bit if he can't quite get it. Like, that'd be really cool. It'd be really dangerous too, but you know. But also coming out of the Battle Royal, Miz pulled AJ Styles off the apron when he was going for the Phenomenal Forearm. And then they fought later in the night. Miz ran away from him. So they have something ongoing here. Now, what I've heard about, because to me, I feel like AJ Styles is above having a feud with The Miz. But what I've heard about AJ Styles is that, you know, he's got 3 or 4 years left on his contract. He's getting a little bit older. He's not necessarily there. He's not necessarily interested or needs to be a top tier, top of the card guy. He just wants to put in his work and have good matches, preferably with experienced, safe workers. Miz is one of the safest wrestlers that there is. Doesn't do high risk stuff. So that's the reason why AJ's with the Miz. But at the end of the day, you know, if that's what AJ wants to do, fine. But he should be in the Money in the Bank match too. They need another babyface in there. And I thought this match was the Battle Royal would come down to Riddle and AJ, which it did until Miz pulled down AJ and then came back in the match because she was faking an injury. But is this Miz and AJ stuff enticing you?
You know, I mean, I don't mind The Miz. I know he doesn't have the greatest reception, but the MITB thing they had like a week or two ago, it was, I don't know. They don't really put any, I feel like when they need a feud, they just, they're like, oh, okay, let's grab you, and let's put you out there and just, do your thing. And then we'll see how it goes. And never works out for them. And I feel like it was kind of the same thing with AJ and The Miz. And I actually thought that The Miz was going to win the Battle Royale by faking that injury. And then like, it was going to be AJ and Riddle, and then Miz was going to win it. But, yeah, it doesn't entice me at all because they don't put any effort into it. Like, there's no reason. I mean, I guess now they have a reason, and Miz pulled him out of the ring, and they could, I guess, build something off of that. It wouldn't be much, but before that, they had absolutely nothing with them. It was just like, oh, you go on MITB, you insult him, and then boom, you have a feud. But no, that's not how it works. That's not how you get fans invested.
Yeah, to me, Miz, and I don't have a problem with Miz either. I think he's great at what he does. He's great at being somebody that generates heat and gets people to boo him and hate him. And he's great at being put up with a baby face. And by default, even if that baby face is borderline, just because he's against The Miz, he's going to be a bigger baby face by the end of that interaction. And so having Cody have his first match against The Miz, fine. No long-term program. Having AJ Styles sort of re-kickstart himself back up after he's sort of lost all these matches to Judgment Day and all this other stuff. One match with The Miz to, have him as a stepping stone, as I say, and keep, AJ as a baby face that people really like, fine. But just ongoing stuff with The Miz, I don't think is something that's beneficial to anybody. And, I hope it's not that much longer that they do this, but I hope The Miz ends up trying to bring Logan Paul in as a tag team partner, and Logan Paul wants to wrestle him instead at SummerSlam, which I think is going to happen because at WrestleMania, WWE guaranteed, or part of the agreement with Logan Paul was that he would go to WrestleMania and leave as a babyface. That's why they had Miz hit the skull-crushing finale at the end of it. The fans did not take that as Logan Paul being a babyface at all. So, I mean, I don't know. Especially being WrestleMania night 2 on a weekend where that there's wrestling events all over the place. SmackDown was late on Friday night and the Hall of Fame. People were probably wasted by the time WrestleMania Day 2 came. Nobody cared to notice what happened to Miz and Logan Paul, and I think people cheered that stuff. But putting them in a match against each other is going to end up having people supporting Logan Paul, I guess. Of course, it could backfire, just like you described at SummerSlam 2018, and people could be cheering for The Miz. So.
Yeah, and I mean, to touch on Logan Paul for a second, I think that he would be great in the WWE because, one, I think that he could bring in a lot of new fans to the WWE, and the existing fans already hate him. And I think it's a mistake to make him babyface. I mean, he's obviously does better as a heel. But just because of the fan reception, that's what they're gonna, cheer for as him being a heel because they already dislike him. But I think excuse me, I think he has a lot of potential just because of how athletic he is. And like, he could do a lot of great character work. I think that he would be a really good wrestler. And I don't know if that's an unpopular opinion or not, but I would love to see it if he came in like full time as a wrestler. And I've seen some things on social media and even him saying on his podcast and stuff that it's something he's been considering. And a lot of people have been telling him to do it because he would be good at it. And I agree with you. I think him and Miz as a match would be really good. I would just prefer him as a heel.
Yeah, I would too. And I think Like, I don't think he would be good. I think he is good. I think he showed that at WrestleMania. I mean, he evidently forgot what he was supposed to do in his match because he was so like nervous or whatever. And the referee had to communicate to him what his spots were. But that's not even, I don't even care about that, except for the fact that that makes things more difficult. And his mannerisms, his timing, the way that he hit those three amigos in that match on Dominic was so like, it just made you want to punch him in the mouth. Or like, you know, hitting that suplex and then stalling and swinging his hip over like he's Eddie Guerrero and doing the shimmy shake on the top. Like, he comes off as a total prick, which he should if he's going to be a heel. And he did a great job at it. And I think he has that sort of it factor that you need to be a professional wrestler, especially be a heel. He has the heel factor down. He's really good at that. So I would be excited to see him be at least somebody that, you know, has a recurring role. If he's not going to be full time, at least like, you know, several pay-per-views a year, a couple of different programs, you know, coming back a lot because he's obviously got a busy schedule. But I don't know. We'll see. So move on to our last men's topic in a second, but we're going to take another commercial break real quick.
The Beyond the Mat Podcast. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Beyond the Mat Podcast.
All right, welcome back to Beyond the Mat. Remember, follow us on Twitter at Beyond Mat WWE, and look for us on Patreon. $1 is our lowest tier. All podcast platforms are what we are available on. And I'm joined by Grace from the Evolutionary Wrestling Podcast. And we're going to talk about Bobby Lashley and Theory, who are going to be facing each other for the U.S. title. You know, they've gone back and forth with their pose-offs. And, you know, the reason why I'm sort of talking about this is because obviously Theory's called out John Cena. We saw an interaction between him and Cena on Raw. I don't know whether Cena was just coming back for his 20th anniversary or if there's a program plan, but it's heavily rumored that Theory is going to be wrestling John Cena at SummerSlam. A while back, it was rumored that it would be next WrestleMania, but it looks like he's probably going to be facing John Cena at SummerSlam. The reason why I say that is because Lashley and Theory are facing each other for the U.S. title. Lashley going to win that U.S. title to get it back in the hands of a babyface and have him defend it on TV all the time, elevate that title a little bit. Him being one of the, you know, last big baby faces they have left that's not injured on Raw, because other than Riddle, they really don't have a top baby face unless you're calling AJ Styles one of them. And of course, Edge is going to return as baby face too, but I don't see him getting involved with the U.S. title at all. But so, you know, Theory's done all his stuff. He's been a total prick heel. Lashley's won a gauntlet match to get himself into this U.S. title match. That gauntlet match was actually pretty good because I felt like Chad Gable, Lashley meshed very well, and then they protected Otis a little bit, having Gable do the DQ finish. Then Theory came in, went straight for his finisher. Lashley had a really nice looking inside cradle. That was like the best roll up I've ever seen. And, you know, if you can say that about a roll up. And so, you know, they did that for the purpose of getting Lashley into the match, but not giving away the long form of the match. So how do you see Lashley and Theory going? Do you think that Theory is going to do something with Cena? And do you think that impacts what happens with the U.S. title?
So what I could see happening with this would be Theory retaining at Money in the Bank and Cena coming out. So in the this past Raw, Cena was talking about how, he doesn't know when he's going to be back in the ring, but it will happen, and it won't just be one match. So making sure that it wasn't his retirement or anything, or no one thought that. But I can see that being like a mislead, because him saying that makes people think, oh, okay, then we're going to be waiting a while for his return. But Money in the Bank is this weekend. And so I could see him coming out after Theory retains and getting a huge pop, and then them having a build up to SummerSlam. I haven't really thought about Lashley winning it. If Lashley does win it, I could also see, him winning it and then Theory winning it back quickly to then have a thing with Cena to SummerSlam. But I definitely think, John Cena versus Theory will definitely happen at SummerSlam if I had to put money on it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that there's definitely John Cena and Theory in the future, and most likely at SummerSlam. And I think that the match with the U.S. title here with Lashley is hard to call, because they could really go any way with it and probably not be wrong, because I don't think Cena and Theory really needs to have a title involved in it to be important, because it's John Cena and it's Theory challenging him. So it's a big up and coming prick heel against big white meat baby face, greatest of all time, some people say. But, that doesn't necessarily need a title. But if it does have the U.S. title involved and John Cena puts Theory over, it then puts Theory over and the U.S. title over at the same time. On the other hand, if Lashley wins it, then there's no title involved. They don't have to worry about the title making the John Cena match predictable, because I don't see John Cena winning the U.S. title, So if Theory's not wearing that title, it makes the John Cena match a little bit more of a guessing game. And then Lashley can elevate the title as a babyface, defending it all the time. So, but then again, if Lashley loses to Theory, Lashley's putting over Theory and putting over the U.S. title at the same time, then Theory gets involved with Cena. Now, where Lashley goes after this, if he loses, I don't know. That's kind of one of the reasons why I think he's going to win it. But that, and the fact that I don't think that they want to have Theory holding that title with John Cena. I just don't think they want to have a title involved with a part-time guy. So,
yeah, now that you say that, I definitely get that. They could get Lashley the title and then still have the Cena versus Theory feud for SummerSlam. But one thing I will say about Cena is I think they do want to put another title on him. I think that that they want to put the IC title on him just so he can complete his Grand Slam with all the titles. And I've also heard some things that WWE wants to make sure that he beats Ric Flair in championships. I don't know when that will happen or if that will ever happen. It's just rumors, but it's not really hard to believe. I feel like they actually do, or they want to make Cena that guy in the company because he already is. So I feel like they have 2 extra steps they have to do to make him, he's already the top guy, but to make him like the top guy, they got to complete the Grand Slam. And then, so he would have to win the IC. And then that leads you to Gunther and Cena, which would be a great feud. And then at some point he needs to get one more championship, I believe, to beat Ric Flair. But yeah, I could definitely see that him holding a title in the future. I don't know when, but I could see it happening.
Yeah, I agree with you that WWE would like John Cena to be the person when you go on to Google or whatever and search who has held WWE title the most times. They want it to be John Cena, not Ric Flair, for optics reasons and because John Cena is a guy they built from the beginning. Ric Flair was somebody from independent scenes in WCW, WWE, back to WCW, back to WWF. So and all the other things that, all the indiscretions that are involved in Ric Flair. So I definitely see that happen. Now, I don't know how they're going to get there, but I think when he says, I don't know how many matches I have left, that's what he means. He doesn't know what the hell they're going to have in store for him to get those accolades, but I think he will get them somehow. I just think we had to wait a little while for, they got to get the one title off of Roman Reigns and then Drew McIntyre.
So do you think that if they do the Cena and Theory thing for SummerSlam, so do you think Cena will just walk out during a Theory promo, or you think Theory is going to cut a promo that specifically just talks about John Cena and then John Cena shows up? How do you think that'll work if he doesn't retain, he doesn't have a title?
I think he cuts a promo and he's saying, oh, it doesn't matter that I didn't have that I don't have that title anymore because I was the youngest and best champion ever, even better than John Cena. And then he'll start running down John Cena, and then John Cena will interrupt him. And then that's how that'll probably work, I think. Something like that.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't see Cena coming in, because honestly, if Cena was going to do something at Money in the Bank, they'd advertise that. Especially since maybe not now because they have it in the arena and sold that out. But if he was going to be in Money in the Bank, then they should have advertised that way back when so that they could have kept it in Allegiant Stadium and not had to move it to the MGM Grand. So that's why I don't think he'll be involved in anything with Money in the Bank. But I definitely think that Theory will be cutting some promo and, talking a bunch of crap on John Cena, and that's when they'll bring it in. A lot of people expected that to happen last night or this week on Raw, and I think that it didn't happen because they just wanted it to be about John Cena and his 20-year appreciation, and they wanted to stay in their lane with the Lashley and Theory thing and get that finished up with. But yeah, to answer your question, I think that Theory will be cutting a promo and Cena won't like it and will come out and let him know.
I 100% agree.
All right. Well, next up, this is probably this is our last topic before we just run down the Money in the Bank matches. And Becky Lynch in a 6-woman's last chance match for the last spot in the Money in the Bank. Becky Lynch, Xia Li, Doudrop, Shayna Baszler, Alexa Bliss. No, not Alexa Bliss. Who the hell was in that match?
For this one on Raw this past week for the last spot.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It was Lynch. It was Lynch, Ash, Doudrop, Baszler, Xia Li, and Tamina. That was a 6. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, you're good. Yeah, that lineup. I mean, would you ever expect to see Becky Lynch in that lineup with all those women?
I mean, she's wrestled good matches with Doudrop before. I like Doudrop a lot. Baszler, I think, is underutilized and could be presented a lot better. In fact, she probably should have been the fun. Doudrop was the last woman with Becky Lynch, but Baszler is somebody I thought that was going to be at the end. I thought that she might even win this match, but Becky was all over the middle of the graphic, in front of everybody. She's on the Money in the Bank poster. I thought she might have lost this match and totally went into a downward thing. But it being a match with 6 heels, she ended up basically working this match like a babyface. Even commentary was putting her over a lot as like somebody overcoming all these odds and and she had a good showing. She hit the manhandle slam, put Xia Li out of there. Did her disarmor on Nikki ASH, got rid of her. Top rope manhandle slam on Doudrop at the end to finish her off, but not before Doudrop hit a Vader bomb to wipe out Tamina, and also nice looking crossbody off the ropes when Shayna Baszler was trying to apply a leg hold to Tamina. So Doudrop looked really good in this match, I thought. And Becky Lynch did her thing. I think this could be sort of the start of her turning back to babyface. Not quite yet, but start to it. And I also think she's now I've said in the past, I think Lacey Evans is possible. We can just go right into Money in the Bank after we talk about this too. But to me, like Lacey Evans has been on commentary and in handicap match and this, that, and the third, and 6 vignettes. So they featured her a lot. And then you have Becky Lynch. Those are the 2 only people I think that could win the Money in the Bank. I mean, I don't see Liv Morgan winning it. Alexa Bliss has won it before. I don't see Raquel Rodriguez winning it this early. Shotzi's somebody who I haven't mentioned yet that I wanted to, because I actually think that she's come a really long way. She's very good behind the mic, and I'm glad she's in the Money in the Bank matches so she gets some spotlight. But before we get into the Money in the Bank match itself, what did you think about the 6 women's match?
So my comment before about would you ever imagine seeing Becky with those women, it's not a diss on any of the other women. It's just the fact that it's the way they've promoted the other women. I mean, you never see them. They never are. It's literally, it was exactly what it was said. The last chance match. And it was all these women who were just thrown together because you're like, oh, okay, these are the last people on the roster. Let's just put them all together. And you would never really expect Becky to be in a match with all of them together. But I thought it was a great match. I agree with you. Becky was very much like the champion during like the whole match, in a way of like, she's a heel, but like she was kind of presented as like a baby face in the match, kind of, getting her eliminations and trying to be the last one standing. Shotzi, I love that Shotzi's in the Money in the Bank match. Or did you want to get that into that later?
No, you want to go right into that? Go ahead, because that's the next thing we're going to talk about. So.
Yeah, I mean, as for the match on Raw, I thought it was great. One thing I will say about it before we hop on to the next thing, Becky's promo after the cameras went off, WWE posted on Twitter and I think like their Instagram or YouTube, was fantastic. So her downward spiral has been, continuing over the weeks. And I think we all were questioning whether or not she had hit her rock bottom, no pun intended. And if this was going to be like starting her climb up. And the promo that she cut after the cameras cut off was so good. And it wasn't her regular kind of heel promos where she's, I'm better than everyone back there. And I mean, it was semi still on that level of I'm better than everyone, but it still had a slight like the man vibes to it. Like she talked about her comeback story, and the whole thing in general was you were questioning while she was saying it. You're like, okay, well, one, this seems like not the Becky we have been seeing the past weeks. And also you can't tell in the videos that WWE posts because they put booze over it. But like live fan videos from that night, there were a lot of cheers. And I think that this could be her start of, you know, climbing her way back up to the top and then eventually turning face.
Yeah, I agree. I think that she's hit the rock bottom that she needed to hit, and that fans want to cheer her. I think people know that fans like her. If it, like you said, is a and like everybody basically has said, Ronda and Becky are going to eventually face each other at next year's WrestleMania. They need to do a double turn where they have Ronda as a heel for that and Becky as a baby face. This is the time to start working her back in that direction. I don't know if they're going to do that right away if she wins Money in the Bank, but you know, maybe she wins Money in the Bank and a heel beats Bianca and she cashes in on a heel. I don't know. But maybe that's the way that they get her to turn. But yeah, the other thing about the match, real quick, I really like the Tower of Doom spot where they had Becky and Becky and Baszler going for the superplex, and then Doudrop came in as the bottom of the Tower of Doom and slammed everybody.
Tamina got screwed on that spot. Did you see how she landed? She just landed completely on her shoulders. Like,
yeah, even commentary was saying, "Oh, Tamina took the worst of that one." She almost got hurt on that one. She almost landed on her head.
Yeah, she almost landed on her neck. Yeah,
but seems like everything's all right with her. But yeah, that the promo on social media, everybody should check that out because I didn't even know about it until you mentioned it earlier. And those are the kinds of things that, you know, sometimes we don't see on TV that like you need to check out to kind of see where things are going. Like even like these little shows like The Bump and things like that. Sometimes there's like little things that are said or that happen or little interviews that just sort of plant the seeds for something that's going to happen. And I think that Becky promo you're talking about is some kind of, you know, her sort of planting the seeds that she's going to, you know, rise back up to the main event level, championship status, and, you know, sort of have a more probably, I don't ever see anybody going back to a character, but I think she's going to evolve away from this character into more of a combination of whatever she is now and the man that everybody liked eventually.
Yeah. And I mean, no way was the promo like it was a babyface promo. No, it definitely wasn't. Like it was definitely still big time Bex, like speaking her crap on the mic and saying that she's as good as John Cena and like just like even better and stuff like that. But it was just, there was a twin, there's something in it that was different from what she normally says that you could tell. And I agree. I think that I don't think the man will like 100% come back, just like copy and paste. I wouldn't mind it if that happened, but I think it will be like an evolution, again, no pun intended, of big time Bex / the man. And I think she'll do really, really good with it when that comes.
Yeah. I'm very not apprehensive is the word. I'm anxious for Becky to turn back into a baby face because there was a long time where like I would watch Raw and the main thing I was waiting for was Becky Lynch to come out. Honestly, of everything else going on Raw, I was waiting for Becky Lynch's time. Even when I went to Raws, I got excited about being able to go to Raw because I knew Becky Lynch was going to be there. Like when I would get tickets to a house show, I would see who the hell is on the roster for it. And I would be a lot more pleased if Becky Lynch was involved in it. I just feel like Becky Lynch is probably the best female wrestler that there is, arguably. there's a lot of people that you could say are comparable. And I think that her promo ability is outstanding. Every single match she's been in with any of these other ladies, Liv Morgan, Doudrop, Bianca Belair, all of them have been basically the best match of the respective pay-per-view that it was on. And the common denominator is Becky Lynch. So I think she deserves to be cheered and be a babyface and be a champion again. But I understand that they also need to feature other women and, people like Bianca Belair. Belair is somebody they want to, she's a homegrown talent. She came from NXT. They want her front and center. And they just haven't really presented her that well as a champion up to this point. I'm happy that she won the title at WrestleMania. They had a great match. But I just wish that they would have done more with Bianca so far. But we'll see what they do. Now, going into Money in the Bank. You have anything else before we talk about Money in the Bank?
No.
All right, so going into Money Bank, we still don't know who the seventh man is, but you got Sami Zayn, Sheamus, Drew McIntyre, Omos, Riddle, and Rollins. Of the six of those, who do you feel is your early favorite to win that one?
So it would be Seth Rollins, because I really just want to see a repeat of him cashing in on Roman really badly. But I think it'll come down to him and Riddle. But I think and I hope that Rollins takes it. That's going to be my prediction. Even no matter who the seventh person is, I still think it's going to be Rollins no matter what.
All right, so then you just got to the second question. Who do you see the seventh person being?
That is a great question. Let's see. I'm trying to think. Do they want to balance out the SmackDown and the Raw people? Because if that's the case, then
I think it's more.
I don't know. I
think it's more important to them to balance the heel and face, even though it's an odd number of people. But at the same time, Ezekiel and Kevin Owens were supposed to have a qualifying match last night. Kevin Owens wasn't there, I think, for personal reasons. I don't know if they're having that match on Friday or if they're just going to throw somebody in there. But I just wanted to add that.
That's a really good point. I totally forgot that was a match that was supposed to happen. Since that is a thing, I would say they're either way they were going to, if Kevin Owens couldn't make it or not, I would think they were going to put Ezekiel in there just because how hard he's being pushed.
Yeah, I agree too. I think they put Ezekiel in there because of the way he's being pushed. And because it's another baby face, you have Zayn already is a heel. Sheamus is a heel. Rollins is a heel. That's 3 heels. And if you throw Owens in there, that's 4 heels. Then if you have Ezekiel, you have 4 baby faces with him, McIntyre, Riddle, and wait a minute, Omos in there. So there's a huge imbalance of heels. So it would make sense for Ezekiel to be the third baby face, because if it's a heel, then you have 5 heels and 2 baby faces, which would be a little bit unbalanced, I think.
Yeah, this lineup is odd. I mean, I guess not the blunt of it. I don't mind Sheamus and Drew and Seth and Riddle and Sammy, but Omos and Ezekiel, can we switch them out for someone else? Put Ricochet in there, someone else. I don't know. Omos and Ezekiel, I wish they were switched out with someone else.
Somebody like Ricochet would be perfect for this match. Flying around ladders, selling all kinds of crazy stuff happening to him. He would be great in a match like this. AJ Styles would be fine in it because he's a veteran, good worker, safe, going to take care of everything right. And those are really the type of people you want in a match like this. People not like Omos that don't know how to wrestle. I mean, the only thing Omos knows how to do is stand there and let other people hit him with moves and then make noises and slam somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like, what are they just going to do? Beat the hell out of him with a bunch of ladders and just dispose of it? Because there's going to be some spots where he choke slams people like off the ladder and stuff like that.
Yeah. And then they're all going to have to work together to like put him over the rope. And then, yeah.
Yeah. It's so, I don't know. I feel like him being in the match is just like you're riding on your bike and somebody sticks a broomstick into the spokes of the tires and you fly over the handlebars. Like it just feels like him being in that match slows it down and screws it all up. Everybody else in the match is fine.
Yeah, I mean, you throw Ricochet and AJ in there, I think it would be a A1 lineup. Like it would be a fantastic card, but I don't know. Even because I'm not like a huge fan of Ezekiel. Like I think the story has been, it's been fine and funny, but if Ezekiel is the seventh person, let's say he is, and Omos in there, I think they could be easily replaced by two other people that could make the match better and the card look better.
Yeah, the only thing that's made Ezekiel's whole thing like even worth watching is Kevin Owens been brilliant and hilarious the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Ezekiel himself, just to me, pretty boring watch wrestle. I mean, I don't know about you, but he doesn't excite me very much.
No, I agree 100%.
But, if they want to get him in there, because at the same time, it is, we all know who he used to be, so he is experienced. It's not like he's just a guy that started wrestling a couple months ago. And at the same time, you do need people in the match who are kind of like, okay, yeah, they're definitely going to lose, that are kind of just there to take bumps from people and whatever. And that's sort of what Omos is in there for. He's somebody that they can really, the winner of the match, having won the match with Omos in it, will look a little bit stronger, I guess, in their view, having won a match with a 7'4" guy in it, that can reach the briefcase without even getting on the ladder. So that's pretty cool. But like you said, and like I've been saying, even Montez Ford, like we said earlier, if he wasn't, if he wasn't stuck in the tag team currently, that would be a great person to be in there. But it is what it is. I sort of agree with you that Rollins is most likely going to win this, but it would be pretty interesting, if he's the one sitting there plotting out what should be done with the briefcase, and then he loses and somebody else does the same exact thing. And so, that being said, I think that's a long shot. I think just the fact that Cody Rhodes had the interview on Raw just to make us remember that he still exists. And he said something about if Rollins wins, he'd be the first to congratulate him. I just think that it's like pretty telegraphed that Rollins is going to win this. And part of it's also because of the stipulation you mentioned about Riddle not being able to challenge for the title, even though I said that Heyman worded it as, you can't challenge for the Undisputed Universal and Money in the Bank is for one. I still think Riddle's going to be in the match to have a great showing. He's going to get screwed by Seth Rollins, and Riddle's time to be champion will come eventually after Rollins cashes in. He'll have the title, and Riddle will probably be his first big feud as champion. That's what I think will probably end up playing out.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one.
All right, so let's move to the ladies' Money in the Bank. Becky Lynch just got in there. Asuka's in it. Bliss, Liv Morgan, Lacey Evans, Raquel Rodriguez, and Shotzi Blackheart. So to me, it's actually a pretty good group of ladies in there. I'm not like over the moon about Lacey Evans in any capacity, but I like seeing Raquel work. I like Shotzi a lot. And I like the fact that she's getting a chance to show herself more. You know, I think that she's good on the promo, but that's not what Money in the Bank's all about. You know, so you have Bliss and Morgan in there. Like I said, Bliss has won it before. I don't think it's time yet for Morgan to win that. I think Becky's the one who should win this, but it could be they might want to go for the feel good Lacey Evans win since she's still a babyface. That's the two directions I could see it going.
So I'm actually gonna disagree with you on this one. My two for winning this match would be Becky and Liv. So I want both. I would love to see both of them win it, either or, and I could see both of them winning it, like in real life. But if I don't know, I mean, if I had to lean more towards one, I think it would be Liv, but then the other half of me doesn't want to say that because I'm a huge Becky Lynch fan and I feel like I have to say that she's going to win it. But either way, I think it's just because Liv has, she's proved herself over the last, few months really, and especially her feud with Becky, I mean, just launched her onto another level. And I mean, then you have the other side with Becky. I would love to see her with the briefcase. I think it would be awesome. I think very unpredictable, like what she would do with it. And you would never know because she's very methodical and like doesn't really let anyone know her plans. So either or could be very interesting for my picks. But if I had to like go on one or the other, I'm of who I think is going to win it. I would go with Liv.
Oh, that's interesting. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I get what you said, it's not Liv's time yet. And I totally get that. And I can agree with that to some extent, but this is like, I think the perfect outlet for her right now to win the briefcase. But as for cashing in and stuff, I guess I really didn't even think about that, like how that would even work. I just think her with the briefcase would be really good for her right now, at least from what she has performed. And, she's gotten a little bit better on the mic, not a lot bit, but a little bit. And, yeah, I would like to see her with the briefcase, but the Becky Lynch fan in me wants to say, screw it all and like let Becky have it and like win the title back.
Yeah, so Liv, I think, has improved like in the ring tenfold from where she was last fall. Like whenever she started feuding with Becky, she really started to get better and better and better. And part of that's working with somebody as talented as Becky, and part of that's, Liv working really hard and being that way. With promos, still tends to sometimes feel very scripted. I'm not saying that she's bad at promos, but she's Alexa Bliss, standing next to Alexa Bliss and them both doing, cutting promos on each other. Alexa Bliss, to me, blew her out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
And that being said, have the briefcase. I think you have to be somebody who is very confident behind the mic, as right after you win the briefcase, the next day you probably have to cut a promo. And not that she's not capable of doing that. I just think that they most likely are going to put it on somebody or give it to somebody who can really make it entertaining that they have it. But I do agree that Liv Morgan deserves something. She's come a long way, and it wouldn't upset me to see her win. I just feel like her stuff with Alexa Bliss is going to end up canceling both of them out in the match. I think they're going to end up getting, involved with each other in the match, and then that's going to end up costing them, the concentration to end up climbing that ladder and getting the briefcase.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening too.
But yeah, Liv Morgan, if she wins that, not a bad pick. I've heard a couple people think that, but you're one of the only ones. So, that's a good prediction, because it's not what everybody else is saying,
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, I would definitely not mind seeing Becky win it though. So I'm with you on that one.
Yeah. I mean, it just feels like that's where they're headed. I don't see Raquel winning this. I don't see Shotzi winning this. I don't see Bliss winning again. I don't see Asuka winning it. I guess I could see Liv Morgan winning it. And I guess I could see Lacey Evans winning it. And it just makes most sense for Becky to win. I mean, why go through all this stuff to get Becky Lynch into it if she's not going to win it?
Yeah.
Unless they're really trying to hammer home that no matter what she does, she can't get back, but if it feels like they already went there and now they're bringing her back up. So I don't know. You have anything else on Money in the Bank before we finish up here?
I will say the women's ladder match is the one I'm looking forward the most. I think it'll perform the most. I think it's going to be better than the men's. Early predictions for that. I think the lineup they have for the women's is actually really good, and it's the one match in the pay-per-view that I'm the most excited to see.
Yeah, I think they should main event. I think that this match has definitely a better assembly of talent than the men's. And don't get me wrong, Rollins is one of the best people they have. He's one of the best people anybody would have. Riddle's probably my favorite guy. But having Omos in there, that just brings everything down. McIntyre is one of my favorite guys too. And Sheamus, like him or hate him, he's a proven, ass kicker in the ring. He's good.
Mm-hmm.
Sami Zayn's entertaining. No idea who number 7 is. And that's part of the reason why it's hard to sit here and say what's going to happen or how great it's going to be, because I don't even know who the hell is the 7th person. But yeah, I agree with you. The women's match is what I'm looking forward to most as well. And that being said, that's all we have. But I do have a trivia question for you. Are you ready for that?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
All right. Okay, so the Money in the Bank ladder match been going on for a while for the men, not as long for the women. However, there is one woman who has appeared in more Money in the Bank ladder matches than any other woman. Who is she?
Ooh. Let's see. I'm going to go with, from what I can remember, I'm pretty sure the correct answer is Natalya.
I was wrong. You get one more chance.
Oh, okay. My backup guess was going to be Carmella.
Correct. It was Carmella with 5 appearances. Natalya had 4. Yeah. You were close, though.
Hey, I mean, at least I had I had the top 2, right?
Yeah. I think there's quite a few that have 4, and then Carmella somehow has 5. And she would have 6 if she was in this one, but she's not. She's in the title match, so. But
changing things up.
yeah. So anyway, that's all we got. Anything else you want to add to this? Do you see the Street Profits beating the Usos?
No, I don't see the Usos losing those titles. I think it'll be a great match. We've already seen it multiple times, and they've never really underperformed in the ring. I think it'll be a great match, but the Usos, I don't see losing those titles at all.
Yeah, I don't either. I could even see the Street Profits losing, and hopefully at some point Montez Ford moving into some singles work. I think that he would be great as a singles worker, but I don't know. But I can't see the Street Profits winning this match, and I don't understand why they have 4 tag team belts now. Why don't they just combine it and carry around 1 belt each? There's no reason to have that many belts. There's not enough tag teams.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
Yeah, but anyway, that's all we got tonight. Grace, you want to plug your podcast and let everybody know where they can find you?
Yeah, everyone go check out the Evolutionary Wrestling Podcast, available on almost all podcasting platforms. Follow us on Twitter at Evolutionary WP. Would really appreciate all the feedback I can get, and all the 5-star reviews on Spotify and Apple and stuff like that would be fantastic. So we're slowly building, but it's been a lot of fun recording the content that I've been recording, and I love doing it, and I love women's wrestling, and I'm really passionate about it. So if you want some more content on women's wrestling, head over to Evolutionary Wrestling Podcast.
Awesome. Sounds good. It is a good podcast. You guys should all check it out. It's new, but each episode is better than the next one. So I would definitely subscribe to that if I was listening to this show. And like I say, you can find me on Twitter at BeyondMattWWE, on Patreon, Beyond Matt Podcast, all podcast platforms. Been really great having you on here, Grace.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Really appreciate you joining me. Had some really good points. Hope to have you on again anytime you'd like. And I hope that the listeners enjoyed it as well. Other than that, that's pretty much all I got. So guess thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for hanging in with us, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Mat. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss a show.